prison than the streets. Because at least in prison, he can get all baby all he wants. Puffy not guilty on majority stuff. He'd probably be more happy in prison than the streets. Because at least in prison, he can get all baby all he wants. Puffy did have sex with too many higher up people in the industry. Now I'm not talking about women. It's a big world, but it's a small world. Ray J and Puffy dealt with lovers. It was a murder for hire hit. Only person know the truth, the real truth, is me and Tupac.
Suge, do you believe that Diddy and or Snoop Dogg were directly involved in that shooting?
And I could have been an asshole and released that audio. Releasing that audio would have put Snoop in prison for the rest of his life.
Returning to Diddy's sex trafficking trial now, I'm joined on the line by a guest who knows Diddy very well. Suge Knight is the founder and former CEO of Death Row Records. He joins me on the phone from the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, where he's serving a lengthy jail sentence. Suge Knight, welcome to Uncensored.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Well,
how are you doing?
Every day is a blessing. You know, one thing about God, it continues to make us better. And, you know, before we get started is that I got on this journey, and the reason why it's so important that I feel we should always help each other to get better, to do better, because my journey got messed up from people in the music business. And a while back, I had got into it with two rappers in 91. In 95, I took a plea deal. But along that journey, David Kenner introduced me to the DA called Larry Longo. Larry Longo and David Kenner, I paid Johnny Cochran close to $1 million, I think it was. David Kenner $1 million. And they said, take the deal. There won't be no strikes, and there won't be no felonies. So Johnny Cochran wrote in and told them, this is illegal sentence, make sure they go in and fix it and don't give me a strike. All that's on paperwork and all that I filed as Hades. But the DA got fired, David Kenner got blessed, the DE got blessed, and I ended up with extra time on this sentence because my sentence carried 2, 6, and 11. They doubled me up for a strike I didn't have. So that goes to show you they can use things against you to cost you more time. They let Bill Cosby go because of the fact that he's had an agreement verbally. Mine is in writing by my attorney Howard Price. It says that I don't supposed to have no strikes, and they still haven't granted that to me. But the sad thing about all this, regardless it's Puffy, regardless it's Easy, regardless it's me, and it was just a situation where when you create something so big and bigger than life, people want to take it from you. And if they can't take it from you...
So Suge, just to jump in, what you're saying, because for viewers who are not familiar with the intricacies of your situation in September, what you're saying, because for viewers who are not familiar with the intricacies of your situation, in September 2018, you pled no contest to a voluntary manslaughter in a fatal hit and run 3 years earlier. Your conviction
There is some new and disturbing video that will impact the murder case against media mogul Suge Knight. The video obtained by TMZ shows the January 29th incident where Knight's truck apparently runs over the two men. The truck backs up, hits one man. Seconds later, the truck comes back and runs over that man. We've had to, digitize the video because it's very violent. And then it also runs over another. And one of the men who were run over died. Knight says that for his part, he was trying to get away because he thought he was being ambushed and might actually be shot. Suge Knight is expected back in court at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time today, and CNN's Paul Verkaman is at the courthouse in Los Angeles. Here with me, legal analysts Joey Jackson and Danny Savalos. Paul, first to you, what are we expecting? Because we're hearing now that Suge may have actually dismissed his attorney and is thinking of representing himself. Is that accurate?
Well, things change fast here in Los Angeles, Ashley. What happened is this Knight has already appeared. Knight walked into the courtroom and he basically notified everybody that his new attorney is Matthew Fletcher from Long Beach. And then Matthew Fletcher came downstairs after this very, very quick proceeding, one in which a bail hearing was set for the 20th or continued until then. And Fletcher got in front of this whole video issue. And Fletcher said repeatedly that this was a case where Suge Knight was lured to this hamburger stand and then was ambushed there. He said he thought by three men who were known gang members. Let's take a listen to what the new lawyer for Suge Knight had to say.
Suge Knight then puts his car in reverse. The gentleman hit. Then he takes the easiest way out. He's not required to back out and reverse down the street. These guys were, my understanding of, active gang members. There's clearly a gun was removed from one of them.
Again, the new attorney for Suge Knight trying to get out in front of all this, repeatedly stating that 100% he says that this video shows that Suge Knight was ambushed, clearly laying a defense out where Suge Knight is articulating that these men had plotted and schemed to attack him at that burger stand. Outside the courtroom, though, others, supporters of not of Suge Knight, saying, of course, that he is just a thug and this is part of his criminal activity.
You are looking very white. You see much more on the operating table every day. Anytime there is a change of power in Africa, a few heads must roll. But why? You will not understand that. This is a Kakwa custom. The pygmies, they do it all the time. Also, sometimes I lecture their spirits about their evil ways. But Dr. Dean, he was about a man.
Law, you got a sentence of 28 years in prison. You'll be up for parole in October 2034 when you'll be 69. And what you're intimating there is that one of those strikes shouldn't have been on your record. Is that have I read that correctly?
Neither one. Neither one of those strikes should be on my record because I don't supposed to have any strikes. Also, they had proof of the guys with guns. They got proof of tapes where Andre Young paid these guys to kill me with a personal check. $20,000 here, money there, and they all agreed they was paid to kill me. And the fact that if you really look at the whole situation, it started with One Oak. Same people at One Oak got shot 7 times. Same people at Tams tried to kill me. Same thing that the FBI says it's a price on your head. They want to kill you. So when somebody tries to kill you, and you get away, how did I end up in prison? But the most important thing about this, they denied me to go, they wouldn't let me go but David Kenner, my attorney, did the most crookedest thing on record that you can possibly do. And this is a guy who's getting this, they're trying to disbar him at 24, 25, 21, and they never reported that to the courts or to me. But past that, the situation is this. A lot of crooked cops got involved in hip-hop. Those same crooked cops, I felt that cost me my freedom, cost Puffy his freedom for now, cost a lot of people bad situations. And I think that they cost the most biggest two rappers in hip-hop history, Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, their life. Everybody points the finger at everyone, but it all comes back to the same authorities.
I mean, as you know, Suge, look, you mentioned Tupac there. Obviously, it was 1996. I mean, incredible to think it's nearly 30 years ago when he was shot and killed. You were alongside him in the car. Many people have speculated since that Diddy ordered that death of Tupac. Is that your belief?
Well, first of all, I got a bullet still today, a 45 bullet an inch to my skull. You can look at my medical records and see the x-rays and see it's in my skull. They didn't remove it because they said if it would have went another inch, either I'd have been investable or dead. Now, as far as what they say Puffy did and didn't do, this is the facts. The facts of the matter is this. It was a guy named Reggie Wright Jr. Who was over security. He didn't work directly for Death Row, but he had a security company called Right Way Security. Reggie Wright Jr. Who was over security. He didn't work directly for Death Row, but he had a security company called Right Way Security, who did security for Death Row with off-duty police officers or guys with a CCW. Everybody knows when we go to a fight in Vegas, we're going to be at the Tyson fight, or we're going to be at my club they call Club 662. You can go to that club and you'll see Mary J. Blige perform, Jodeci perform, Tupac perform, Snoop and the Dogg Pound, Andre. I mean, unbelievable talent in one place. That night was going to be Run DMC East Coast night. Reggie Wright Jr. told the security they can't carry firearms. The sad thing about that, Pac hated Reggie Wright Jr., so he had fired him before any of that. I don't know the right date, but I'm quite sure it was. It's paperwork that shows it. But the crazy thing about that, it was a bodyguard named Frank Alexander. Pac hated Frank. He was cool at first, but towards the end he hated Frank because Frank always wanted to get into pictures with Tupac. And Tupac was very militant, so he was like, man, I don't want a bodyguard taking pictures with me. How is he watching my back if he's getting himself in the pictures? So I hired a guy named Michael Moore and told him to bring another off-duty police officers because they kept their gun and they was real aggressive by protecting Tupac. So on the way to the fight, Reggie Wright Jr. tell Michael Moore he can't carry his weapon when he's doing bodyguard work for Tupac. Michael Moore said, well, I'm going back to the hotel. If I can't carry my gun, I can't protect myself or Tupac, so I'm not going. So Reggie Wright Jr., who nicknamed it Pac gave him Pork Butt, so Pork Butt goes and says, Frank, you can go, but you can't bring your gun. Now, everyone knows
What call him?
you can't nickname that Pac gave him Pork Butt, so Pork Butt goes and says,
Perk butt.
Junior, who nicknamed it Pac gave him Pork Butt, so Pork Butt goes and says, Frank, you can go, but you can't bring your gun. Now, everyone knows you can't be a bodyguard without a gun. So after the fight, we come from the fight. Tupac got into it with another guy. It was a big fight. After that fight, after we stopped to a few places, we go to my house. I told Frank, I told all the security, I told everyone, Pac just beat up a well-known gang member. Send 4 or 5 guys extra to the house to escort Tupac to the club.
And where did you hear?
When I heard that Tupac
was shot when I was at home.
Stories. In this episode, I'll be discussing the life of Orlando Anderson. Orlando, also known as Baby Lane Anderson, was born on August 13th, 1974, in Compton, California. Despite the separation of his parents, Orlando had a secure childhood, as he was raised primarily by his grandparents and family members on South Boris Road. It was a typical South Central family history in many ways. His great-grandmother was born in Texas, just before the outbreak of the First World War. She left the South during the Great Migration, when many black families were moving northwards. His great-grandmother moved to Compton in the 1950s, when it was an affluent middle-class neighborhood, only to watch the property value crash as white people fled. Orlando's mother worked 12-hour shifts as a bookkeeper to support her children. On the weekends, there would be a large family gathering that brought everyone together to play sports and have a big meal. A rapper friend of Orlando's remembers envy and the closeness of Orlando's family. He said, "We all had problems with our parents. Our mothers were on crack, and our dads weren't around. Orlando had something I didn't have, and that was a family. He was still in school. He ate every day. There were really no problems. Orlando didn't smoke, nor was he much of a drinker. During his early teen years, he got involved and got put on the Southside Compton Crips. But unlike the typical gang member, he was never convicted of any crime. Orlando was described by friends and classmates as a friendly, cool guy. He first attended Taft High School in the Valley, which is the same school Ice Cube went to. He was later transferred to Dominguez High School in Compton for his final year. Orlando received his diploma that year. His class ring remained his favorite piece of jewelry. That year, there were a staggering 803 gang-related deaths in L.A. County. The yearbook contained a full-page ad and several small ones for neighborhood mortuaries. Compton had been a war zone. To the north, near Linwood, blood such as Mile Pie Road and Looters Park ruled. To the south, in Compton, were sets like Corner Pocket Crips, Kelly Park Crips, and Southsides. Murder rates climbed year by year, but the rest of the world wasn't paying attention. Until 1987, when former Compton Crip known as Eric Easy E. Wright, who was a friend of Orlando's family, formed the group NWA. Then came Suge Knight, who was with Mile Pie Road to the north. He wanted some of what Easy E had. Suge founded his business off the production talent of Dr. Dre, whom Suge allegedly strong-armed out his contract with Easy E with the help of several Bloods and a few baseball bats. After 1992, death row flourished. The north was up, the south was down. Suge enjoyed playing the role of a godfather. It's no secret that he placed the Bloods from his neighborhood on his payroll. Money flooded into the north side of Compton, but at a price. Tupac wasn't from Compton. He was born out east. When he was locked up in 1995, Suge saw his chance to gain control of the fastest rising star in hip-hop. He arranged for a $1.4 million bail to release Tupac from jail pending his appeal. Joining Death Row made Tupac a superstar, but it also brought out a different side of him. With Death Row acting like a gang itself, Tupac eagerly took to the road. In his open-top Jaguar, Tupac would roll through the Mile Pie Road neighborhood, proudly mixing in with his people. Ironically, it turns out what Orlando really dreamed of was a career in music. By 1996, the year he turned 21, he had made a little headway. He lived with his girlfriend in her apartment in Lakewood, which is just southeast of Compton. She was a student nurse, and by this time they had 2 girls. He was also juggling another relationship with another woman, who had just gave birth to his 3rd child. In May of 1996, Orlando and his stepbrother decided to start a record label together. They named it Success Records. In July of 1996, there was an altercation between Orlando and Trevon Lane at Foot Locker in Lakewood Mall. Allegedly, Orlando tried snatching Trevon's death row medallion, and it broke off his neck. Both parties left the mall with unresolved issues. Orlando's other passion was sports, so on September 7th, he drove to Las Vegas with his girlfriend in a borrowed car to watch the Mike Tyson fight. He checked into the Excalibur Hotel, just across the street from the MGM Grand. Tupac had ringside seats to the fight. Orlando had reportedly snuck in through the back. After the fight, Orlando waited around in the MGM Grand lobby, waiting for his Uncle Keith D and the rest of Southside. In the meantime, Suge, Tupac, Buntry, Trayvon, and others walked by. When Trayvon sees Orlando, he points him out as the dude who tried to take his chain. Tupac then went up to Orlando and allegedly asked, "You from South?" Usually it's the fan who approaches the star. This time it was the other way around. Tupac asked his question, then he pulled back his fist and slammed it to the side of Orlando's head, knocking him to the ground. And right after that, the rest of the mob jumped in, kicking Orlando in the head and body. The altercation got broke up by hotel security, then everyone scattered the area. Tupac went to the Luxor Hotel, while Suge went to his Vegas house to change for Club 662. Tupac and Suge met up later, then headed to 662. They were going northbound on the strip. They made a right on Flamingo heading east. A car with Southside members was allegedly heading west on Flamingo and saw Suge and Tupac's entourage, who were making themselves known with the music they were blasting and yelling at the fans. The car with Southside members allegedly made a U-turn, then pulled along the right side of Suge's car. Allegedly, Orlando took a gun, leaned over, and emptied the entire clip into Suge's car. 6 days later, Tupac Shakur was pronounced dead.
To the club. Reggie Wright Jr. refused to send the security guys, refused to show up. That wasn't a coincidence. It was a murder for hire hit. We was blocked in. It was more than one shooter. Only person know the truth, the real truth, is me and Tupac. He's not there to tell it. Only person knows is myself. But Reggie Wright Jr. tried to change the whole story of the narrative, what actually happened, and he was not there. During that situation, Snoop, who everyone knew at the time, wanted Tupac dead. Snoop had a meeting with Daz, Corrupt, Nate Dogg, something gonna happen. Somebody's gonna get killed, right? So, Corrupt tells the story, Dash tells the story, Warren G tells the story. Now, what Dash says, when Snoop said that after, damn, we can't go to Vegas, who's gonna get those niggas? They already gonna get guy, basically. Corrupt tells the story and says, once he tell everybody they can't go to the fight and can't go to Vegas, turns around, Nate Dogg says, I'm gonna go to Vegas. Then because I'm going to Vegas, I don't gotta be around basically me and Pac. He said, as long as I ain't around them, I don't have to worry about getting shot or getting a stray bullet. That let you know, premeditated plan. Warren G says, when the fight was going on, he was watching at his house. Snoop came over to watch the fight. Snoop had a walkie-talkie. These walkie-talkies, you only got this walkie-talkie that I bought for security and the principal that security doing security with. And they worked on all the West Coast. So if you're an artist and you going to the mall or you going somewhere, they have a walkie-talkie, security have a walkie-talkie. If you're not going to an event with any of the security details, you don't have a walkie-talkie. Because I didn't buy that many because I wanted to be exclusive to hand them out who was needed. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so Snoop comes in, according to Warren G, and he got this big walkie-talkie. They start hearing the gunshots. When we getting shot, Snoop listening to it in real time. Pow, 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 all over the radio. That's when he tell him, hey, I gotta go. They just killed Tupac and shot Suge. How would you know? Nobody said that on the radio, you just heard the shots. Now, Reggie Wright Jr. and Michael Moore in the car. They get on the radio, and they say, hey, got him. Another guy is on the radio, they say they think he's a white guy or a lawyer, and they say, hey, don't talk on the walkie-talkies on the radio. Don't talk on the air. Right? So, to move things forward, maybe, I don't know if it was 6 months or longer, however it was, since I've been in this prison right here. Somebody played that for me with Michael Moore said. So when I know that attorney David Kenner always says, you can be on your cell phone and people be talking like, hey, I'm talking on your cell phone. Somebody listening. They recorded and you can't do that. They're listening to you. So I know that's the saying. So jokingly, I told David, I said, hey, was that you on the walkie-talkie? Because that's your line. Don't talk on the phone. Now you're the one saying don't talk on the walkie-talkie. So, that being said, David Kenner goes and says, Suge, I never had a walkie-talkie. I would never have a walkie-talkie. Would I need one for it? Never. So I'm saying, wow, he's so bent out of shape, but I was joking about it, right? I said, you never had a walkie-talkie? He said, that's not me talking on a walkie-talkie. I never said he was talking on a walkie-talkie. So that raised red flags, didn't think nothing much about it. So Kenner had sent some of my boxes and files to another attorney. Yeah, another attorney got them, right? At the time, he wanted the boxes back. That didn't make sense. So when we discovered a walkie-talkie in the boxes, you know, nobody puts something in the box that they're going through the exact same way. So the walkie-talkie, my guess, probably was in one box. And when they looked at everything and reading through everything, and they was asking me about this walkie-talkie, they put it in another box. Kenner, a guy named Steve that works for Kenner, has it. Went and stole the wrong boxes that the walkie-talkie was in, but we still got the walkie-talkie. I said, send me a picture of it. So on my tablet can send photos, so they sent me a photo of the walkie-talkie. It blew me away. One part of me, it made my blood boil. Another part of me, I just seen Tupac face flash all in my mind. I see these motherfuckers involved with assassination. So I tell Kenner about it. I said, David Kenner, you said you didn't have a walkie-talkie. Now you had one.
Hi,
You had one. So after that, our relationship after 30-some years went cold. He went and told the judges. He started trying to come off my case. He tried to sabotage tries my case. He did, and everything I'm telling you about is the proof.
So ultimately, Suge, look, it's fascinating stuff because I remember this all happening in real time. So it's fascinating just to hear you talk it all through in this way. It's like it's a murder mystery episode. But ultimately, I've got two questions. Do you believe Diddy had anything to do with it? Because it sounds to me like you're more convinced that Snoop Dogg had more to do with it. Was Diddy involved at all, do you think? And if it wasn't him, then who do you think ultimately ordered that hit?
This is the thing. This is what I do know. I know Keefy D, who I've been knowing since Time Warner Football. Keefy D says that Puffy and him approached him and gave them money. Keefy D says if he go to prison for, this is his words, Keefy D says if he go to prison for the Tupac murder, Reggie White Jr. gonna go to prison for Biggie's murder. So all these things going back and forth. You know, who knows what? Absolutely what. What we do know, money was paid out. What we do know, according to these guys, to the police, not the police actually doing the investigation, the cricket cops. You gotta remember.
Did you ever ask Diddy directly if he'd been involved?
Well, that question would be no. Since all this happened, I never had a situation to have a conversation with Puffy. Majority of the time Puffy see me, he going out the back door or going down the street somewhere. Only time that I ever had a conversation with Puffy, and it wasn't even a real conversation, I was at the Roosevelt Hotel having dinner. Somebody came over to my table and said, Prince, we want you to come watch his show right now. I said, Prince performing? I said, yeah. And Prince a real gangster. Prince, he liked the bullshit. So I go in, and they sit me at a table with Puffy, Nas, a few other people. Prince playing his guitar, he walked to the table and looked at me, looked at Puffy, and started laughing. You can tell he playing the whole thing. Next thing I know, I lean over and tell Puffy a few words, and before I can finish my sentence, Puffy gets up, his people gets up, and they cover him with coats and run him out the hotel.
And what were the words you said to him before he ran?
You got a lot of explaining to do. Red well, I ain't gonna curse on your show. I said, you got a lot of explaining to convince me that you had nothing to do what they said you did. So, that's that. But, you gotta remember one thing. I'm not here to bring a person down in hip-hop. The culture of hip-hop is so important, and it was so powerful, it had been done so great. But, I still stand behind what I stand behind. I mean,
I'm going to come to Diddy's case, which I know you have a view about, where you think he should walk, and many people, I interviewed Ray J, who said the same thing. But obviously, you've just revealed a very fascinating moment where you confront P. Diddy in a club when he's known as Puffy at the time, and you basically tell him he's got a lot of explaining to do about the murder of Tupac and the attempted murder of you. I mean, that's a dramatic encounter.
Yeah, it's a big world, but it's a small circle. Say you're part of a racketeering and make a case, they would have to put other executives in custody also, which they would never do. It's a guy named Jimmy Iovine. We was, I consider him family. Been known him forever. Jimmy Iovine used to be a second engineer, and then he started working for Interscope, and I made that company. I built that company, me personally. And Puffy beat up a girl named Capricorn. Beat the shit out of her. Jimmy Iovine, one of Puffy guys, and Puffy approached Capricorn. And Jimmy told Capricorn, you're going to take this money, and you're going to shut your mouth and leave it alone. And I'm going to give you $1 million. Puffy didn't give Capricorn $1 million. Jimmy Iovine gave Capricorn a check from Interscope. And Universal should be ashamed of their fucking self. That this big old publicly traded company will allow Interscope to give this girl $1 million check.
And this woman, just to be clear, Capricorn Clark, she's actually been giving evidence in the case. She was your former assistant. And she...
No, she wasn't my assistant, but she did hang around Death Row. She was Puffy's assistant. But what I'm trying to say is, Jimmy gave her that $1 million check. She got mad because she thought that's a settlement check, and the settlement check, you don't go take taxes out of it. So when they told her I feel bad for Capricorn, not because she's just lying, but I feel bad for Capricorn on the simple fact she went through a lot. But the other part about all this, if you're not going to say nothing to Jimmy and Interscope for doing something illegal, why would you just put Puffy in prison? The other thing is that, do Puffy do weird stuff? If Puffy got on the stand and told the truth, I know he'll walk. If he got on the stand and say, look, I'm gay and straight. I mess with guys. I mess with women. I do it all. Puffy not guilty for the things he did to these people. He guilty for being a cold, freaky man doing freaky things done to him. But in the Cassie situation, they could not say he was having sex with the men also, because that'll make him like it's an orgy. It won't be like sex trafficking. It won't be like forcing stuff to do. But at the end of the day, there's no way Puffy should go to prison for the rest of his life. He should have. I think that. Go ahead.
I was going to. I was going to say, Suge, you talked about Capricorn Clark, that he beat her very badly. He beat Cassie Ventura very badly. He was clearly very violent towards women. That's not a nice man. Somebody you're saying is you don't.
What is this? I didn't mean to cut you off.